what gets me out of bed is more the idea that we can help people take ownership of themselves.
Sure.
So I teach practitioners, but I'm teaching practitioners and the understanding that the person who is capable of doing the healing is not them. They are not responsible for your well-being. You are. And if they can empower you, so I always say we shine a light in the dark spaces. The parts that you didn't know you couldn't move, the areas that are no longer a problem but are truly holding the rest to ransom. And so we can shine a torchlight. Look at this, look at this, do this, go home, do your movements. These are the movements. They're really simple and straightforward. Remind your brain of what is possible in your body, and it's your body. And you do have the power to heal yourself. And we're just there as conduits to kind of help and guide.
And I think that's why I create my course as well, Gary, which for level 1, it's like 48 practices from the feet moving up through the body, because people need to repeat the processes. They need to be able to get the information. I mean, I've written it, I've done it as audios, I've done it as videos, because I'm like with my clients, I'm here to facilitate something. I can't do it for you, but I've done everything I can to make the processes as available to you as possible. And the thing I wanted to say was, obviously you did the Doctor in the House TV program, and I had a lot of clients come to me through that. And I still get clients through that, and there are 3 clients I'm thinking of. So 2 of them had chronic back pain. One had just been through surgery, and the consultant was like, you're on high level painkillers for the rest of your life. Another woman who came through had listened to one of your podcasts, and again, back pain since she was 11, and was told you will be on these painkillers for the rest of your life. Once we started teaching them, the processes, it wasn't that their back pain completely disappeared, but they could manage it. They knew what to do to turn the volume or the noise of their back pain down. And both those people with the back pain were like, why did no consultant, why did no one ever teach me this? So it was like, that's how powerful these movements are, and you can only move your body for yourself. And I wanted to share another client where, more recently, who had long COVID, and ever since she got COVID, she had constant chest infections, pneumonia, was on antibiotics again and again. And I reached out to her because one day she put something on Facebook, and she looked so ill, and she was talking about her symptoms. And of course, my brain was going, I wonder if her rib cage is stuck. I wonder if her rib cage just isn't moving. So there's no circulation, there's no energy getting to the organs. So when I teach people, I call the rib cages like your treasure chest, because it's got these organs in it that are the treasure that are mainly responsible for keeping you breathing and everything. And so I reached out to this lady, and we taught her, we got her on the Get Into Your Body course, but I taught her to move her rib cage in 3 planes of movement. It wasn't stuck, it was completely collapsed. Her shoulder joints, her shoulder blades weren't moving, her neck wasn't, she was in this forward head posture, and we just taught her to realign the whole area from the feet upwards. And guess what? No more, no more chest infections. It's not that she doesn't feel it coming, she does, but she now knows exactly how to move the area to avoid collapse, to avoid compression. So, and of course, people have to do that for themselves. I can't, as you say, we are giving them that torch and the tools.
But what people are doing instead of that is going to their GP, I guess, and looking for some medicine, for instance, or maybe I mean, there's plenty of options probably out there for that. If none of them are teaching the rib cage to move, you have if you've got tilted forward shoulders, your ability to breathe diaphragmatically is compromised. You're going to become an upper chest or shoulder breather, neck breather. And so what that does is reduces the amount of capacity of the rib cage for exchange, inhale, exhale. And so then what we've been talking about is the deletion of movement, what's missing. And what we're talking about is giving people those opportunities back, which is exactly what you beautifully described. But that will change the exchange possibility for inhale and exhale. So more oxygen in, more carbon dioxide out. This is what's called wellness. And again, we're just back into that state of opposites. So if you have been stuck in a posture that is compromised for a long time, bacterial infections in your lungs are going to be pronounced and worse. And beyond the lungs, this is happening all over the body.
Well, exactly. I was going to say in the digestion, the bladder, it's all the same if you're stuck in those areas.
All connected to your skeletal movement potential, because if you can't flex and extend your spine, your organs in your stomach are not going to be able to pump. They basically, organs, they pump, muscles they contract and relax to move food through the system. And if you're stuck in a physical position and there's less and less stimulus for those organs to do that, you are going to find it hard to move through. I mean, obviously, you've got the right foods to eat, you've got foods that suit you, but also movement is a part of this. Pelvic movement, ability to posterior tilt and anterior tilt, then you're in the realms of all kinds of urinary conversations, etc. Even all the way down to, because this movement is about, I call it the flow motion model, and not because it was about oxygen flowing in and out of the lungs, but because there should be a flowing, fluid, efficient, effortless, and energy conserving way of moving, and that then taps into all of the systems. So if you have varicose veins, is what I was thinking about. Check the hip. If they're on one side, you'll probably find that your hip, where the main arteries come through the pelvis and down into the leg, is compromised, and blood flow is not able to happen. So if you start then opening up the joints, moving, are you then capable of creating an environment that moves blood back out of this system? And I've seen it change. There was a student in Canada, and we saw him one October or September, and the following October or September, and he had a huge improvement in it, because we worked out on the course that was what his hip was doing. It wasn't to find out about the varicose. It was just, oh look, your hip doesn't do this. Outcome, what was that? They call your calves a second heart, because it's designed to pump blood back up to the body. Now your calves attach down, all the way down into, there's not a single muscle in the calf that doesn't attach into your feet. So if your foot doesn't move very well, that second heart isn't going to pump very well, and blood isn't going to flow very well. If joints are stuck in compromised positions, nerves aren't going to slide very well. It's all connected.
I know.
Some people just don't even want to buy into that, because it sounds so holistic and spiritual.
I know, but it's the nuts and bolts of what's going on in this thing we live in.
It's exactly, and we live in it. We have to be responsible, but we're not being told. So it's not our fault. It's not their fault that they go to the doctor instead of extending their spine. These are the possibilities that we can give to people, the opportunity to recognize that, like my Wake Your Body Up course is literally, can you get your pelvis, spine, rib cage, skull, and shoulders all moving in an organized way to take pressure off the system? And like you were saying, the positive feedback from people who do that and revisit it, to do it again and again and again, because it's actually a tool for life.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's not you learn it once and then it's done. We have to keep
do it once. It isn't a thing. It's a process.
And I just wanted to touch on so I've broken down my course, the level 1, into a 7-week course to take people through the feet, and then the pelvis, and then the spine, rib cage, shoulders, neck, and jaw. But the jaw is absolutely crucial, and it's like the light bulb at the end of the tunnel in a way, because what I teach people is that the way if their jaw is kind of contracted, the impact that has on every other joint in the body compared to if the jaw is relaxed and can move more freely. And of course the breath, you know, this is where it connects into the breath, and also how if we can just tune into what our breath, the movement internally of our breath, there's a lot of clues when you just feel into your breath without trying to change it in terms of how your body would naturally want to move, which by the way was what you helped me begin to connect with that day when we got out the room. But the jaw, I don't know if you have anything in particular to say about the jaw, because I know that when I teach people, I was teaching on Saturday, you know, I always try and get them to connect into their body and give them contrast. So I ask them to kind of tighten their jaw and then really relax their jaw and feel into different areas of the body. What would you have to say about that, Gary? Because it's so powerful from where I am.
Well, I broke mine, so it's potentially a slightly different journey for me personally, but here's the way I normally deal with it. I don't like to just throw out a load of movement possibilities for people to go and muck about with on something like this. I think that needs to be more considered than that. But all of your whole body has a kind of split all the way down the middle of it, except your jaw. So both sides are instantly affected by any movement of it. As you say, the way we chew, it's entry for input into the system, but I try not to give one structure any more importance over anything else. So if you have one foot that is moving particularly differently to the other one, it will reach all the way up, influence the pelvis, adapt the spine, skull, and then jaw has to kind of manage itself. I do describe the jaw as a dangler, which basically means when you're moving your head, it's not moving with it. It's actually kind of it hangs. So if you had a bar and you move the right side of the bar up with a coat hanger on it, and that coat hanger wasn't able to slide up and down, you would just see it kind of do a dangle.
Yeah.
It maintains its level with the ground in relation to that. So it effectively opposes the skull. And that means that if it's opposing the skull, it's matching the movement of the rib cage. And so there are relationships. That's how we kind of work this all out, is what's relating to what. And you will then be able to make connections. So on a higher level, please don't just go around and try and move your jaw, because that happened to me once with it being broken. Go move the jaw, and you know, it released so much problems in my body, and took about 3 years to tidy up. So I don't recommend doing that. I recommend finding somebody who knows what they're talking about. But I also wouldn't worry about it until you know, done the more tangible things like the feet and the spine and pelvis, and like you said, it's the light bulb at the end of that journey.
And I suppose what I'm getting to here is it's more for the teeth grinders, or the, you know, when you're really tense and you kind of clenching your jaw, or it's very tight. I suppose I'm talking about the joint, you know, that kind of a teeth grinder, or someone who forgets to just relax this area, but that does have a profound impact.
So sleeping, neck position, pillow, so many factors that influence the neck position. The neck position will then influence the jaw. Jaw could slip backwards, could be protruded forwards, you know, and we also know that grinding, they're not sleeping in a relaxed state. So how do we tackle their sleep? What are they thinking about before bed? Loads of useful stuff about that. You know, it's I guess what that little conversation and something to kind of encompass the whole thing is you're actually looking for causative factors for your issues rather than dealing with the issue. So if it's My issue is I grind teeth at night. We go, we contract and relax your jaw muscles, but actually that's just a plaster. We have to try and find out why. So then the conversation and the anatomical checks, and I don't think there should be a issue. Again, I hate that word. I'm realizing that doesn't have a cause to it. Nothing happens for no reason. And I think if we could get people into that mindset, they can get themselves out of problems quite quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes for any discomfort anywhere in the body. And I think for me, especially with the course that I've created, so I spent a lot of hours trying to identify one-to-one what was going on in clients' bodies. But with the course, and the same with your wake up your body. Yeah, it's about taking people on a journey so they can almost trip up on it in themselves, and those processes are so enlightening for people. And generally you will, if it is a structural cause, you will find something that will start to make sense of it. But everything that has created our body going out of alignment is...
I always smile because movement is so binary. You're basically saying, can you flex or extend? Can you side bend left or side bend right? And if you imagine doing tick boxes, which is then you always find there's one you can do more than the other. And so if you use a tick and a cross scenario, you're going to find that 50% of your movement is compromised, and that's alarming. But the truth is, if you find in every scenario that one way is easier than the other, one way is too much, the other is too little, so 100% of your movement is compromised, which is a really, really bleak outlook. that I don't want to put a spell or a hex on people going, you're all fucked. But actually, in reality, they're all things that need to be done. If you improve the movement to one side, your brain will stop doing the side dominantly and reduce it. So what's too much becomes less, and what's too little becomes more, until you're balanced. And I think balance is, the ultimate goal, which is back to where we started.
And you said something amazing, I remember, from when I first started training with you, which was that nothing is actually really wrong. Your body has done an incredible job of doing exactly what it needs to do, and all kind of ways of compensating or doing things differently is because we have this extraordinary brain and body that keeps us going no matter what. And all we are doing with these processes is coming back in and helping to remind our brain body, our mind body, that there could be better, more optimum ways of moving and aligning. So it's like, really thanking our body for keeping us going despite those imbalances. And I always try and share that with people, because it was something really important that I took from your teaching, because actually the moment you start thinking negatively or that you've got a problem, it actually causes like tension and contraction in the body. So it's really positive to come in with that sense of thank you, body, for doing an amazing job of functioning no matter what, and working from that place, that any adjustment is a positive, as opposed.
The word for me is necessary. Every movement that you are capable of doing is necessary, and without one of them, your whole system is compromised. And we have hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions, concerned about pronating their foot. That's just one big one. And some people then carry that we shouldn't flex our spine. And some people, carry, don't let your knees fall inwards. And those three movements that I've just said, pronating your foot, flexing your spine, allowing your knees to go inwards, are some of the most important movements that you can be doing for your body. Somewhere we created a fear around this as an idea. You can't not do one side of the coin. You don't have a coin anymore. And these are incredibly necessary movements to wake your system up.
So, okay, we'll have to finish soon, but I'd like to finish by one other thing that I always share, which I learned from you, which was in the classroom the first time. I think there were Pilates teachers and other people, and there's this big thing in Pilates about strong core stability. And what you spoke about was what we're really looking for is strong core instability. So like the young tree, that no matter what the wind is like, it can kind of blow and it doesn't break in the storm, whereas a big tree trunk which kind of
as we saw last week.
So that's kind of what you're talking about there, I think.
There's resilience in movement, as we kind of said earlier. So thinking about the little tree and its ability to respond and adapt to different scenarios, if you keep your spine straight, and that's your goal. I mean, we have had practitioners in the classroom who are describing discomfort in their neck and their shoulders, and after about 3 days you realize they're just holding themselves like this. And of course, if you stay there for the next 3 years or 12 years or however long it's been since they were told that this is what they must do to be this certain type of instructor, of course it's going to ache and be uncomfortable. And then it would be like, can you just let go of it a little bit? And they relax and they go, oh, am I allowed to do this? Is this okay? And these are real statements from real body workers. Is it okay to do this? And just then, okay, so now let's explore some flexion. Let's put length into all those tissues in the back. And of course, our scenario is when you put length in those tissues in the back, they will start to contract and they will naturally hold you into a position like this, rather than you forcing yourself into a position like this. And that comes around if we go for the straight spine. Even if we go for a straight spine that is not able to do its movement in 3 dimensions because we've trained it so well, all of that movement is then going to have to, underlined in bold and italics, have to occur somewhere else. Normally it will be in the hips. With the lack of movement in the pelvis, you'll see the outcome in the feet and then in the shoulders. And a lot of people who are really, really good at strong core will struggle with shoulder and hip problems because they're moving too much. And this a really simple scenario is to get this going again. I don't know anybody who keeps their spine still and feels good about it, but they're still doing it because that's what they were told.
And that aspect of that, and I see this a lot with yoga teachers or people who've done a lot of yoga who come into my course, and their rib cage, it moves with their skull. They're not used to separating it, or their rib cage moves with their pelvis and they're not used to separating it. And of course they've all got issues because they haven't learned to move them independently in any plane of movement. And I suppose that's where what we're doing here is different to yoga or to Pilates or to some other movement therapies. It's just we're giving this other bit of information about how to move every part of the body independently. So
only because that information isn't there. The yoga teacher, you learn to do the asanas and the poses, and you know all the intentions are really great, but can you learn the poses when you go? If you just left a desk job because you're sick of it and you become a yoga teacher, you're already stuck with all of the anatomical limitations you've got, and then hoping that you just love yoga. Is yoga going to unwind that, or can you then focus on different structures in your body to give you different access to the asanas? None of that is the problem. It's all in us.
For sure.
What are we able to do? So I would say yoga saved my life, incidentally. I started a yoga class. I went on a 9-day yoga thing with a guy called Danny Paradise, who's an Ashtanga, a direct teaching descendant from Pattabhi Jois, and I walked into this place almost unable to walk and came out doing backflips like some kind of cartoon.
Amazing.
And that really opened my eyes. So I'm a big fan of yoga. but it wasn't something that would inform my anatomical teachings, because that
Yeah.
is necessarily about the movement side
And
of
I
things.
think I always say to people, my job is to get you to be able to go into any class or any movement and just have a better understanding of how your own body is experiencing it,
Your
rather
body is
than,
the baseline. So
yeah,
however your body is being held is how you will perform your sport, act,
yeah,
whatever. And that will come down to, if you do that tick and cross binary scenario, can you do this, can't you do that? All the things you can't do, you won't be doing that in your yoga class. You won't be doing it in your
yeah,
Pilates class. Even if
exactly.
the teacher tries to get you to do a right side bend that you've got a cross that you can't do, you will do your best to do it, but you will be finding a way that does it. It's not what we would call a pure. So you move your pelvis out of the way to make it possible, or lean, or reach, or you know, we'll find that I will use one vertebrae instead of 20 to
Yeah,
support
yeah,
and then we
absolutely.
wonder why it's kind of sore there.
Yeah,
And so we all have movement limitations. That's not a judgment, it's just how it is. And the better we get to understand them, and the more disciplined we are in practicing them, the more we can enjoy absolutely everything, which is that's my 20-year take home. The better
yeah,
your body moves, the easier everything becomes.
for
And that's
sure.
mental, physical, practical.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
okay.
it's all necessary, and it's all teetering on the idea of balance.
Well, Gary, thank you so much. And, this podcast is called The Positive Power of Pain because I believe when, we feel discomfort in our body, it's like a voice telling us that something needs attention. And I think specific, very much so with the joints and with the muscles, when we do feel discomfort, it's more like our body asking us to bring attention to that area. And, and I just, your model, my training with you has had such a profound impact on, I know, in my own career, helping so many people understand their bodies. And
Well, it's always a privilege to hear that. Thank you.
yeah, well, it's the truth. It's absolutely the truth. So thank you for taking this time today as
You're
well,
more than welcome.
for speaking with me. And yeah, I don't know if there's anything you want to say before we go.
No, I love. I often say, kind of at the end, that podcast had a very different flavour to some of the normal ones
Yeah,
that we do. So, but they're all necessary.
yeah,
And I
absolutely.
think packed with good information.
Yeah,
Obviously, I would like to shout out my Instagram page, which is
yeah,
at GaryWard_AIM, where if you're a practitioner listening to learn this stuff, we have online courses. So wherever you are in the world, we teach the lower limb biomechanics course, where you can learn about the tripod that Victoria wanted to talk about,
yeah,
but how that connects the movement of the whole leg, knee, hip, pelvis so you have pronating legs and supinating legs, and to be able to learn all about that. And then we also have the closed chain, the upper body in motion course, which is where we bring an understanding around the mechanics of the upper body from the pelvis up, including shoulder mechanics, etc. Which briefly reminds me, you said earlier about mobilizing a shoulder. Like
yeah,
you can, if you take a shoulder and mobilize it, you can pull the whole girdle around. But if you learn and understand the intricacies of that, which is what we're teaching in this course, then you're actually independently diving into which aspects of the shoulder are you actually really struggling with, and being able to re-expose that. So that all comes down into that course. And then if you're not a practitioner, Wake Your Body Up and Wake Your Feet Up are very inexpensive, cheap ways into experiencing all of this stuff from myself. And then of course your program coming from yourself is adding more kind of emotional or you'd probably explain it better, but another side to this that I'd love to be able to do in my own, but I've chosen my and sticking with it. So I think that's amazing what you're doing as well.
Well, thank you. And I wouldn't have done it without my time learning with you. So I can't recommend enough to any practitioner to help your clients understand their own bodies, time with you, time learning with you is gold. Okay, and yeah, get into your body is where I've taken it in terms of how I teach my clients, you know, so they've got an online resource where they can use it as well. Yeah. All right, Gary, thank you so much for being here today, and yeah,
Pleasure.
hopefully we'll speak again very soon.
See you soon.
All right, bye.
Bye.